Phase 4.
This is an ultimatum. Either we share this world with them, or we vanish as a species. Would you mind? You're not listening to me.
Now you leave them no choice.
Kingdom of the Spiders. The next victim could be you.
Are you ready to press play?
There was a time when your worst fear wasn't a masked killer. It was a rabbit, or a frog, or a tree. Welcome to the 1970s, the golden age of shag carpets, disco balls, and the deeply unsettling belief that Mother Nature was out to get us. Back then, environmental anxiety wasn't just a political issue. It oozed into cinemas, crawled into living rooms, and left entire generations terrified of bees, rats, and even grass. These weren't just horror movies. They were warning signs wrapped in fur, fangs, and fungus. The 70s gave us a tidal wave of eco-horror classics, films where nature didn't just fight back, it struck first. Sometimes low budget, sometimes unintentionally hilarious, but always unforgettable. In today's countdown, we're diving into 10 iconic eco-horror films from the 1970s that made you think twice about going outside. From mutant animals to killer weather, this list has it all. And wait till you see number 5. It involves worms. Big ones, really big ones. So buckle up, compost your popcorn, and get ready for a trip back to a time when environmental awareness came with a body count. And stick around till the end. We've got a surprise connection to a modern horror trend that might just make you rethink your next hike.
With razor teeth, they can strip a man to the bone in a frozen instant of terror. Piranha.
Yes, technically Piranha dips a fin into the 1970s creature feature craze, with a wink and a bite, but don't be fooled. Beneath the satire, there's real eco-horror swimming just below the surface, and by the time the credits roll, the water runs red. Directed by Joe Dante, who'd go on to make Gremlins, Piranha tells the story of a military experiment gone wrong, because of course it does. Genetically enhanced piranhas, bred for warfare during the Vietnam War, get released into a local river by accident. What follows is a full-on feeding frenzy, complete with summer campers, clueless tourists, and panicked officials shouting into walkie-talkies. The piranhas may be tiny, but they're relentless. They strip flesh in seconds, they travel in coordinated swarms, and they turn idyllic swim spots into blood-soaked nightmares. The film doesn't hold back. Kids, pets, lifeguards, no one is safe. And while there's plenty of humor and B-movie charm, the underlying message is loud and clear. When humans tamper with nature, nature always bites back. And let's not forget the final warning shot. The surviving fish escape into the ocean. Cue ominous voiceover, cue sequels, cue lingering terror anytime you dip your toes into dark water. Piranha manages to be smart, silly, and genuinely scary, delivering one last punch in the gut for 1970s eco-horror, right before the slasher boom of the 80s took over.
Phase 4.
Phase 4 isn't your typical nature goes wild horror flick. There are no mutant bears, no exploding worms, no killer vegetables. What it does have, ants. Intelligent, organized, unsettlingly strategic ants. And unlike most eco-horror films, this one plays it smart, almost too smart. Directed by Saul Bass, Legendary title sequence designer, Psycho Vertigo. This is his only feature film, and it's weirdly brilliant. The story follows two scientists who set up a desert lab to study strange ant behavior. These ants aren't just foraging, they're evolving fast. They build geometric structures. They cut off communication. They start targeting humans. The brilliance of Phase 4 lies in its tone. Quiet, sterile, clinical, and in its stunning close-up macro photography of real ants. There's something deeply unsettling about watching insects move with such eerie coordination, like a hive mind calculating humanity's expiration date. One unforgettable moment: the ants destroy a computer system from the inside using teamwork. Then they cut off the cooling system, turning the lab into a slow cooker of dread. This isn't nature reacting emotionally, it's nature outthinking us. Though it flopped at the box office, Phase 4 has gained cult status for its cerebral approach and chilling atmosphere. It's not just a horror story, it's a quiet war, and the ants might already be winning. Also worth noting, the original ending, cut from release, shows humans becoming part of a new evolutionary phase, controlled by ants. Nature doesn't just fight back, it absorbs. When it comes to eco-horror, Food of the Gods, 1976 asks the all-important question: what if nature grew too much? Based very loosely on an H.G. Wells story, this film takes supersized problem to a whole new and hilariously terrifying level. Set on a remote Canadian island, the plot kicks off when a mysterious gooey substance bubbles up from the ground. Naturally, a few locals feed it to their chickens, because that's what you do with strange glowing sludge. And the next thing you know, giant chickens, giant wasps, giant rats. Basically, it's a buffet of oversized creatures with a taste for human flesh. When a group of city folks, including a pro football player, arrives on the island for a little getaway, they soon find themselves trapped in a low-budget nightmare. Rats the size of golden retrievers crash through walls, chew through tires, and storm cabins like they're leading a rodent revolution. The effects? Gloriously janky. Think miniature sets, rubber monsters, and real rats awkwardly superimposed over footage of screaming humans. It's clumsy, chaotic, and absolutely delightful if you're into that kind of thing. Which, let's be honest, you are. Food of the Gods may not be good in the traditional sense, but it's unforgettable. A perfect time capsule of 70s ambition meets madness, with a clear moral: don't mess with strange goo, especially if you're on an island, surrounded by rodents. Unlike most eco-horror flicks of the 70s, Long Weekend doesn't rely on mutant animals, toxic waste, or sudden swarms. Instead, it takes a slow, psychological route and delivers one of the most unsettling messages of the entire genre. Nature sees you, nature remembers, and nature hates your bad attitude. This Australian film follows a troubled couple on a weekend camping trip to the beach, where their crumbling relationship is mirrored by their casual disrespect for the environment. They toss beer bottles into the ocean, they shoot at harmless creatures, they leave trash everywhere, and in return, nature pushes back, subtly, then violently. What begins with eerie animal behavior, stray dogs lurking, possums watching from trees, spirals into complete paranoia. Sounds become distorted, the wilderness closes in, and eventually the couple finds themselves stalked not by one specific beast, but by everything they've wronged. The brilliance of Long Weekend lies in its restraint. No jump scares, no cheesy effects, just dread. Thick, slow, creeping dread, the kind that lingers long after the credits roll. While the film wasn't a commercial hit, it gained critical acclaim and has since been re-evaluated as a minimalist masterpiece. It's quiet horror with a moral backbone and a potent reminder that sometimes the scariest monster is the one in your mirror, or maybe the bird staring at you from the treetops.
An ultimatum. Either we share this world with them, or we vanish as a species. Would you mind? You're not listening to me.
Now you leave them no choice.
Forget honey and pollination. The Bees, 1978, turns these buzzing little workers into airborne agents of chaos. Imagine a world where swarms of aggressive mutant killer bees invade cities, explode through windows, and apparently have a political agenda. Welcome to one of the most gloriously unhinged eco-horror films of the decade. The plot? South American killer bees are smuggled into the US and begin interbreeding with domestic bees, creating a super aggressive hybrid. Naturally, governments panic, scientists scream, and people get stung a lot. The death scenes are campy, often hilarious, and oddly dramatic. Think slow motion flailing and walls of bees like fuzzy death clouds. But what truly sets the bees apart is its tone. The film really tries to be serious about environmental mismanagement, government corruption, and corporate greed. But between the dubbed dialogue, melodramatic music, and random bee attacks in shopping malls, it veers hard into B-movie madness. And then comes the wildest twist. By the final act, the bees apparently develop intelligence and threaten to take over unless the United Nations meets their demands. Yes, the bees negotiate. While The Bees is technically a warning about tampering with ecosystems, it's better remembered as an unintentional comedy goldmine and a reminder that in the 1970s, even pollinators were pissed off.
Jerry? Too late! They're dead!
Squirm.
Electricity and worms, not a combo you'd expect to trigger a full-scale horror meltdown. But in Squirm, 1976, that's exactly what happens. And trust us, you'll never look at your garden the same way again. Set in a small Georgia town, after a violent storm knocks down power lines, the movie takes a sharp left into nightmare territory when thousands, literally thousands of bloodworms get supercharged by the electricity and decide they're done being bait. These are no ordinary worms. They burrow into skin, slither through walls, and even drop from ceilings like little squishy assassins. The special effects, surprisingly gnarly for the time. The production used over 100,000 real worms, plus some brilliantly gross prosthetic work that shows the creatures erupting from human faces and crawling out of eye sockets. Yum! The standout scene, the one that made people scream in theaters, features a man covered head to toe in writhing worms, his skin barely visible beneath the swarm. It's gross, it's glorious, it's unforgettable. Squirm might have been low budget, but it played its cards right. Creepy score, gross out visuals, and that slow southern pace that lulls you into thinking things are fine until your floorboards start moving. Over the years, it's become a go-to reference for worm-based horror and a shining example of how 70s eco-horror could take the simplest part of nature and turn it into something straight from your worst dreams. If you've ever wanted to see a giant mutant bear fetus rampaging through the woods, you're in luck. Prophecy, 1979, is one of the most bizarre, unintentionally hilarious entries in the eco-horror canon. And yet, it tries so hard to be serious. Directed by John Frankenheimer, this film aims to tackle real environmental issues: pollution, deforestation, corporate greed. The setting is a remote Maine forest where a paper mill has been dumping mercury into the water. The result? Deformed fish, sickened animals, and oh yes, a towering mutated bear creature that looks like a melted garbage bag with claws. At the center of the story is a well-meaning doctor and his pregnant wife investigating the health crisis among a local indigenous tribe. But the investigation quickly turns into a survival story when the mutant bear, nicknamed Katadin, starts tearing through tents, people, and logic. One of the most infamous scenes in eco-horror history, a camper in a sleeping bag tries to hop away from the monster, only to be launched into a rock and explode into a puff of feathers. It's absurd, it's horrifying, it's cinema. While Prophecy was panned by critics at the time, it's now considered a cult gem for fans of so bad it's good horror. And underneath the rubber suit, there's still a sobering message: mess with nature long enough, and nature might just return the favor with fangs and mercury poisoning.
Kingdom of the Spiders. The next victim could be you.
If you're even mildly arachnophobic, this one might just push you over the edge. Kingdom of the Spiders, 1977, spins a web of rural paranoia where cute desert towns are overrun not by gangsters or zombies, but by thousands of actual crawling, hairy tarantulas. Set in a sleepy Arizona town, the story follows a small-town vet, played by none other than William Shatner, who starts noticing a disturbing trend: livestock dying under mysterious venomous circumstances. Turns out pesticides have wiped out the spiders' natural food sources, and now they're turning to us for snacks. What makes this film stand out isn't just the swarms of 8-legged killers, it's the commitment. The production reportedly used over 5,000 real tarantulas. No CGI, no puppets, just live crawling nightmare fuel on people's faces, beds, and steering wheels. One unforgettable scene shows the town completely webbed over: windows, cars, entire buildings, like some kind of apocalyptic Halloween prank. And yes, people get cocooned. You've been warned. Despite its low budget, Kingdom of the Spiders delivers real unease. It's not polished, it's not subtle, but it knows exactly what it's doing. The ending is grim. No happy wrap-up, just silence and webs. Today, it's remembered as a cult classic and one of the few horror films where William Shatner's most dramatic scene partner had 8 legs and a bad attitude.
Of the animals is coming, and there is no place to hide.
What happens when the ozone layer starts thinning and nature decides it's had enough of us? You get Day of the Animals, a film where high altitudes turn cute woodland creatures into bloodthirsty maniacs, and somehow Leslie Nielsen into a shirtless villain. Set in the mountains of California, this film follows a group of hikers who become trapped after solar radiation starts affecting animals above a certain elevation. Hawks swoop, dogs maul, bears get extra bold. It's like National Geographic, but with a serious grudge. There's something oddly terrifying about watching man's best friend suddenly become man's worst nightmare. German shepherds launch coordinated attacks. Birds peck out eyes, and a grizzly bear, let's just say, it doesn't hug. But the most unforgettable moment? Leslie Nielsen. Yes, that Leslie Nielsen, best known for Airplane. And The Naked Gun goes full psycho. Shirtless, sweaty, and swinging a stick, he becomes less concerned with wildlife and more with asserting his own savage dominance. Spoiler: nature humbles him. Hard? While Day of the Animals never quite achieved blockbuster status, it's a perfect time capsule of 70s eco-panic, cheesy effects, and man vs. nature morality tales. Plus, the idea of the sun literally driving nature insane, surprisingly ahead of its time. Before genetically modified mosquitoes or rising sea levels, there was something much simpler and slimier. Frogs, 1972, hopped into theaters as one of the earliest and weirdest entries in the eco-horror craze, and let's just say, Kermit wasn't invited. Set on a southern plantation drenched in humidity and arrogance, this film centers on an upper-class family who's been trashing the environment, and now nature's RSVPing with a vengeance. Frogs, snakes, alligators, lizards, you name it, they show up like uninvited party guests with murder on their minds. Despite the title, the frogs don't actually do much attacking. Instead, they sort of supervise, like slimy little mafia bosses, letting their fellow critters do the dirty work. It's less amphibian apocalypse and more nature's slow burn mutiny. Still, the film's eerie tone and campy death scenes turned it into a cult favorite. Who could forget the wheelchair-bound grandfather sinking into a swamp, his cries muffled by a chorus of croaking? It's bizarre, it's slow, and it's oddly mesmerizing. And yes, the frogs do eventually take over the mansion because of course they do. Today, Frogs is remembered less for its terror and more for its sheer commitment to the bit. Nature strikes back, but politely and with lots of riveting. So, what did we learn from the 70s? That frogs can organize a coup, worms can explode people, and ants might be smarter than all of us. These movies weren't just low-budget monster flicks. They were reflections of a world slowly realizing that the environment wasn't just scenery, it had teeth. And it was tired of being ignored. Sure, some of them were campy, some were straight up weird, and let's be honest, at least 3 featured questionable acting and very questionable special effects. But beneath the rubber suits and screaming soundtracks was a raw, pulsing anxiety about pollution, overdevelopment, and our place in the natural order. The message? Nature doesn't forget. Now it's your turn. Which of these eco-horror classics haunted your childhood? Or made you laugh out loud? Did we miss a favorite? Maybe Bug, 1975? Or The Swarm? Let us know in the comments. We're always up for more nature-based trauma. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that little bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into retro horror. Next up, let's just say it involves robots, theme parks, and a lot of screaming children. You've been warned. Until then, respect the forest, watch your step in the lake, and for the love of survival, never ever ignore a squirrel staring at you.